Hello, everyone. My name is Jordyn Smith, and I am the voice and the astrologer for this YouTube channel, Nonconformist Conscience. I wanted to make a video for the next couple of days, astrology, the transits happening, and then I'm going to make a separate video for the Scorpio new moon that's happening later this week on the 1st. So let's talk about what's leading up to this, and then I will post a video for the Scorpio new moon tomorrow. That way you all can have it and follow along or, fill in solidarity. Um, before I jump into this, I am opening more appointments for tutoring. I've been receiving more emails around that. So if you are wanting to be tutored, you can go on my website and you can book a tutoring session with me. Also, I have all my other appointments there. Right now, also, I am doing my karmic inheritance workshop. That is closed off. I do have it on my website, but just know like it can't be something you can sign up for right now. Um, and I'm in the middle of doing that workshop right now for the second time. After the new year, I will do that workshop again. It's a recurrent workshop. But what I did last time was I just put it on my blog and it filled up within 24 hours, I want to say. So if you haven't and you want to be notified of like workshops and things that I do and get to be first choice or book first or however you want to put it, subscribe to my website if you haven't already. Sometimes I do written forecasts, sometimes I don't. It just kind of depends on my schedule now. It's pretty busy, but I always try to do these videos. So follow that, and I look forward to meeting more Scorpios and other clients as well. So without further ado, let me talk about the energies leading up to this new moon. So here today, the 29th, we have Venus square Saturn, and we also have Jupiter sextiling Chiron. I'm going to pull up the chart and I'm just going to break down each of these transits day by day leading up to this new moon. And I'll show the chart and I'll speak a little bit about it and then I'll pull it back down and talk to you guys. So for those who are learning astrology and wanting to know about this, right now we have Venus in Sagittarius square to Saturn retrograde. We're going to pull in their rulers, so Neptune and also Jupiter, which is sextile to Chiron. So that's pulling in Mars in Cancer, this moon sitting on the South Node in Libra, and also Mercury in Scorpio. So let's start first with, as we all know, Pluto is at that anaretic degree. And that's really important because it's going to be pulled into this. I pointed out Mars and Mercury to you, Mars ruling Chiron, and then also it is in an opposition with Pluto. The opposition will reach the same degree mark of 29 degrees on the 1st, but it will perfect down to the minute on the 3rd of November. So it's important to keep this in mind because Mercury is ruled by that Pluto. Chiron is ruled by this Mars and Cancer. And there's these repeating signatures because, Jupiter is aspecting Chiron, which is ruled by that Mars. And Jupiter is the ruler of Venus, which is square to Saturn, which is Pluto's ruler. So that this is a condensed energy. It's something that we want to talk about, this, what is playing out here. So let's first start with this Pluto Mars opposition. Their oppositions can bring a massive amount of tension, of dynamic tension. And it's because on the one hand, something is definitely wanting to be opposed. And on the other hand, there's this deep need for integration of the healthy or the natural energies of what those two signs, Cancer and Capricorn, are meaning. Pluto transiting is our ongoing evolutionary journey. It's like the forerunner, and then Mars is the self-cleansing oven, the thing that triggers us to do the deep Plutonian scorpionic work. And so right now, Pluto, with this opposition to Mars, is where we can be having these emotional triggers, depending on where they're falling in your chart. Mars and Cancer can be this catalyst for us confronting maybe a blind spot that we have around our own evolutionary growth. And so and it's Pluto and Capricorn. So it is around our sense of authority and also our ability to take accountability and responsibility. That doesn't mean taking accountability or responsibility for things that you shouldn't be. I want to make that clear. It can just be, for me, I've been thinking a lot about how I've been in this emotional maturation process of learning how to be um, self-determined and through having self-control of how I respond to the emotional triggers in my life right now. That's Pluto in Capricorn opposing Mars in Cancer. And for me, this is falling in my ninth and my third house. Pluto's also squaring my moon. So it's bringing in a lot of stuff around my own thinking of having to have this ongoing expansion around my intuition, Pluto and my falling in my ninth house, that has been repressed or suppressed, Capricorn. And that suppression comes through the suppression of my emotional stuff. This is just me specifically. So if you want to know how this is working out in your chart, definitely come talk to me. Talk to another astrologer, do something, because there's a lot of depth to this and the intricacies of the aspects playing out. But in a very generalized sense, Pluto and Capricorn being opposed by Mars and Cancer is having us confront these deep inner emotional dynamics that could have been suppressed or repressed, or maybe where we felt like we couldn't feel them because we've been conditioned to in oppressive environments. It's also looking at any of the structures in your life that are impeding upon maturing. And I like to think of myself as an emotionally intelligent, emotionally mature person, but there's still work to be done. So it's like, I want us to remember that this is always ongoing. We're always evolving through our emotional dynamics. And this Pluto and Capricorn at the anaretic degree is bringing up an immense amount of pressure to really, Saturn and Pisces, dissolve these old barriers around our own emotional dynamics of where maybe there's something that we have denied. Seeing as Mercury is in Scorpio, and so it's about confronting us with, where have we denied this? For a lot of us, it can be where we're having to meet ourselves with, maybe I feel shame or judgment or guilt about something, and it's perpetuating this suppression of these emotional dynamics. For other people, it can be where you're denying your own inner nurturing of self, right? You might be Pluto and Capricorn feeling very responsible. And so your own emotional dynamics are taking a back seat because you have these other responsibilities. And so Mercury is also speaking to getting to the bottom of, if you're denying that, why is that? Have you filled up your time with too many things to where you are not being able to look within in the way that you need to, right? And in the deeper way, because Pluto and Capricorn at that anaretic degree with Mars in Cancer, it's really wanting us to get to the depths, right? It's like pulling in where things have been overly crystallized or worked on and overly structured. And Saturn retrograde in Pisces ruling that Pluto is really this dissolving so one can get into the pure emotionality of whatever it is that's wanting to be put to bed on some level, right? Pluto at the anaretic degree, its last few weeks in this sign in our lifetime where it's been since 2008. It's like all of the work we've been doing this time, it's like now there's this need for an integration. And to me, it's also speaking of like the integration of the wisdom, Capricorn, the wisdom that is held within the timelessness, Saturn and Pisces, of the emotional dynamics that we have been unearthing and excavating within us and dealing with and confronting. And it's like, this is like a time where it's even, I don't care if you're 80, you're going to feel like you're maturing in a whole new way whenever you're consciously working with this. It's like this massive amount of expansion can happen when you break through that wall, that structure. And so a lot of us are feeling this. We're like, whoa, this is intense. And for a lot of us right now, you know, as I'm talking about this, the moon is sitting on that south node in Libra. The moon is ruling that Mars. This is like, again, it's this repeating signature of like where we're confronting our thinking, Mercury and Scorpio around these emotional dynamics that are serving as a catalyst for each one of us, where we have been reflecting Capricorn on the past and the extremes or the imbalances. And as humans, we all have this on some dynamic. And that moon on the South Node, as I'm talking about this, as this whole conversation that I'm breaking down is playing out, it's about putting to bed something of the past, these old dynamics of where this has occurred. And so there's these catalytic moments that are occurring in our lives personally. And then I just want you to think about what's going on in the world. And if we want to take this further through a collective dynamic, this is really about the need for us to gain wisdom from how we have structured things and apply it in a more emotional way that is serving as a catalyst to collective evolutionary growth through not suppressing the emotions. If we look at what's going on in the world right now, the bottom line of it is these suppressive, oppressive, repressive dynamics coming to a head, because anything that is repressed becomes distorted. Our beliefs, our truths, our values, our needs, okay? And so we're seeing this play out even on a collective level throughout the world. And this is about throwing off where we have over-identified with the security of those and truly taking the knowledge, the wisdom, integrating it, and ending something in order for something new to occur. All right. And so again, these extremes are playing out. Then you have Venus square to Pluto's ruler, Saturn in Pisces. And this square is a last quarter square. A last quarter square is like where people can absolutely hold on for dear life, or they can absolutely just throw off what it is that they need to throw off and go for it. And so, again, you can see this in the collective. And what this is dealing with is Venus and Sag values that could be dogmatic, or they could be impeding upon, on a personal level, your authenticity. And Venus is ruling that South Node, and that moon conjunct the South Node right now. So it's like, How have old ways of believing affected your inner emotional reality? Pluto, Capricorn, opposing Mars, Cancer. Did that play extremes out in your life? How do you need to throw that off? The way to throw this off is through looking at Jupiter, the ruler of Venus, Jupiter retrograde, the internalized messages, getting to the bottom of it. Where have you denied the authenticity of your nature? And Jupiter is sextile Chiron. Chiron is ruled by that Mars in Cancer. Again, this repeating signature, right? So it's truly about getting down to our self-worth and our authenticity and our own inner emotional security through integrating or reintegrating, I want to say, our authentic natures while throwing off the wounds, Chiron, that have affected us on a very emotional level through internalized messages. I want you to think about what's going on in the world right now. Just think about the Puerto Rican population that's talking. There are wounds right now that for a lot of Puerto Rican people, they had internalized messages and they're saying, heck no, this, no. And it's also pulling in this function of unity and diversity and acknowledging that. And so if we look out on the collective and we see groups of people of different cultures, Jupiter, Sag, speaking out against this, this is also reflecting certain dynamics going on inside of us. What are you wanting to throw off that has become internalized? How has that affected you on an emotional, spiritual, physical level? What has it perpetuated in your life? And how now do you want to integrate the wisdom of what you've learned through going through those moments of having to acknowledge or confront that that has gone on? That's a lot of what this is happening. And then Neptune retrograde in Pisces, ruling that Saturn in Pisces, is about having faith and surrendering, but also healing these dynamics. There is a lot of healing that can go on right now, individually and on a collective level, whenever we are compassionate and empathetic, but even to ourselves. It's about Piscean Neptunian grace, right? It's that Maya Angelou quote, when you know better, you do better. You make different choices. Your judgment is different. So this can be an immense amount of time for a lot of us to be triggered on an emotional level. And it's about maturing through making a Capricornian correct judgment call on how to respond and not react. Okay. I also want to mention, let's see here. I'm going to share this again. I also want to mention that Mercury is conjunct the south node of Venus, both ruled by Pluto. This is definitely restating, getting to the bottom of our inner self-worth, our own emotional and psychological dynamics, the knowledge, the wisdom, the internalized that have come from confronting crisis that has affected our own inner reality, our sense of self-esteem, our ability to have healthy self-worth and healthy self-esteem. For a lot of people, they are dealing with dynamics of very scorpionic things where they're having to confront where there has been suppression of abandonment, loss, and betrayal. I've been having a lot of clients come in and talk about this and expressing how this had an effect on them, but they're wanting to heal themselves, right? It's very Saturn and Pisces, Pluto and Capricorn opposing Mars and Cancer and scorpionic stuff. Like it's very much just this deep need on a soul level to strengthen one's soul through doing their own soul work. So tomorrow, Mercury is going to oppose Uranus, which, as what this is truly speaking to, is Uranus is ruled by that Venus. So it's liberating from over-identifying with beliefs that are keeping us stuck. And those beliefs perpetuate certain types of thinking that perpetuate this is Mercury opposing that Uranus being ruled by that Venus and Sag, and then going back, this is like the dance this week, these repeating signatures, and then Mercury being ruled by Pluto and Capricorn. It's again the internalized messages that have impeded upon from this deep Uranian transformation of our inner relationship to self, Uranus and Taurus, and getting to the bottom of where have we over-identified with something. Uranus is this force to be reckoned with. It's about individuation. It's about throwing off the past. It's about rebelling against it. And with Mercury opposing it, it's around our own thinking. And that thinking stems from our structured reality, Pluto and Capricorn. So it's really throwing off anything that doesn't feel authentic to you right now. And it's integrating that wisdom. Again, it's an opposition, and Mercury is ruled by Pluto and Cap. So it's Capricorn is about wisdom. It's wisdom from direct experience. So there's this need for a Uranus and Taurus, a radical transformation of our inner relationship to self through one, throwing off old thinking that's affected us on an emotional and psychological level, Mercury and Scorpio, but also integrating this deep soul wisdom that we've gained through the direct experience of these dynamics that we're called to reflect on right now. And as we do, we integrate it, and it radically transforms our inner relationship to self. All right. It's also, we're doing this through, again, restructuring our consciousness right now through these emotional dynamics that we're confronting. The other thing I wanted to speak to is on the 31st, Halloween. Cassandra is at 28 degrees Capricorn. So it means that it's balsamic. Something is wanting to wrap up. Balsamic to Pluto and Capricorn, but it is opposing Mars and Cancer at 28 degrees while being squared by the moon. All right. It's going to be square to a moon in Libra at the time that this is occurring on the 31st. So there are people who are at this point in time wanting to wrap up a whole evolutionary cycle of where they have betrayal wounds of not feeling seen, heard, or understood whenever they were trying to speak the truth to something. Cassandra, within a structure. That could be a family structure, a work structure, any type of structure. All right. And there's a call to really look at how that deep, deep Chironian Cassandra wound has been catalytic. If you are someone who has this type of wounding, I challenge you on this day with the moon and Capricorn and the moon in Libra square to this Cassandra Mars opposition, Cassandra balsamic culminating into Pluto. I challenge you to look at how are you coming back into your own emotional center through having these catalytic events. Mercury is in Scorpio, ruled by that Pluto, which Cassandra is conjunct to. Is there something that you still need to express? Are you wanting to express it, and do you have an expectation of an outcome? Because if you do, I want to tell you this T square pulling in Saturn and Pisces, Venus in Jupiter, and Mercury in Scorpio is where one could be confronted with the actual truth, where one needs to learn how to surrender and just to learn that sometimes it's just about planting a seed and not an outcome in the here and now. And how one finds their equilibrium through saying what it is that they need to say just for their own healing. To not be silent, but to just say what it is that you need to say. And how that is honoring your authenticity. Okay. But we can't get people to change or to hear us, right? Libra deals with others' ability to hear where we're coming from. Sometimes that's not going to happen, especially if someone's just not in that place where they have the ability to. You know, sometimes the deepest wounds we have are the ones where we are accelerating our own growth on an emotional and psychological level, on a soul level, and someone else is choosing to resist and is staying firmly planted in how they are. And when that occurs, there's this truly beautiful lesson in Saturn and Pisces, which is surrendering to this, to the truth of the reality, the pure truth of the reality that we don't need to take it personal. We can wish, we can hope for sure. Sometimes we need to surrender to that. Sometimes someone just isn't there, right? But that doesn't mean that you don't have a right to say what you need to say. But with Cassandra opposing Mars, it's really important that if you need to say something, that one, first and foremost, you don't abandon yourself, but secondly, that you are responsive and not reactive. It feels a lot more impactful when planting a seed to do it calmly, but to do it justice in our calmness. Okay. So this could be coming up for a lot of people. We're going to see this work out in society. Right now, we're already seeing this work out in society, especially with women speaking out against more patriarchal structures. This would be Cassandra and Capricorn. But on personal levels, there is a lesson, and it's a spiritual lesson of we can't control an outcome. And that's part of the moon squaring, that being a part of this T square. So I just wanted to speak to this. I am going to do a much longer video and a deep dive on the new moon in Scorpio. I will put that out tomorrow. Tensions are high right now. People are talking about Pluto opposite Mars, and with the moon squaring it, and throughout the next few days, we are going to see things out in the collective, the extremes. We're going to see more people act like toddlers, because they haven't learned that emotional maturation process. So I implore you, whenever you are out and about, that each one of us at some point in time throughout this next week are going to be triggered at some point in time in some type of way on an emotional level. And this is where and it is something from the past. Pluto at 29 degrees, Mars approaching that. I want you to just remember that Capricorn is where a soul will be tested to be self-determined, to not be who they once were. And so this is going to take an immense amount for some of us to, depending on the dynamics, to make sure that we are being responsible with our reaction. Okay? So that means being responsive and not reactionary. Bless you. So, again, I'm going to say my beautiful Brene Brown quote. I love her for this. This is a week with all that's going on that speaks so beautifully to Venus and Sag and these heightened emotional dynamics and these soul tests that are coming. For one to be in their authenticity, but to remember the Brene Brown quote of don't back down, don't puff up, don't back down, stand your sacred ground. We each are going to have a choice at some point in time and how we react or respond to something. Lord knows I have been even tested lately. Pluto is doing its final square to my moon, and Mars is about to square that. It is approaching that square. So if you are someone who has cardinal planets right now that are being aspected, or even mutable planets because of the Jupiter and Gemini, the Saturn and Pisces, and also the Venus and Sag right now, just remember that we have a choice, and Pluto in Capricorn is wanting us to have self-control around making a thoughtful choice that is rooted in our authentic nature right now, not maybe who we once were in the past. You've done a lot of growth since 2008. There's a lot of things wanting to wrap up from this whole evolutionary cycle since 2008. And this is that time where it's about being self-determined in a very Capricornian way, to express Capricorn in a natural way. Because who knows, you could be being a catalyst for someone else to see that there are natural role models in the world. So I will see you all tomorrow. I look forward to more of you coming to see me for tutoring or whatever. I did want to say, I get reminded, someone's reminded me this twice now. I need to let those of you who want to do tutoring that if you want to book a package of tutoring, you get it for a discounted rate. So my email is on the contact page on my website. If you're wanting to do that, let me know, because I will help you. I'll tell you how to do it, and I'll tell you it's 15% off of that tutoring rate. So anyway, I will see you all tomorrow. Have patience with yourself. Do not deny. Please, I implore you, do not deny your own emotional stuff right now. I think for a lot of us that have Capricorn things, I was talking to one of my friends earlier, sometimes we don't even realize that we're denying and suppressing stuff. Like if you have a lot of Capricorn, it can be tricky because it's something that's been ingrained and conditioned for so long. Not all Capricorns, I don't want to overgeneralize, but if there's a big emphasis of 10th house or really prominent Saturn or a lot of Capricorn in your chart, this is a time where we're really having to pay attention to our old emotional patterns. And those emotional patterns can be where we've just been conditioned to suppress. And right now it's going to take concentrated effort to truly, depending on your chart, again, I don't want to overgeneralize, to reflect on what it is that one needs to reflect on. And Saturn and Pisces right now, transiting, is really paying attention to whether or not you're denying your emotional dynamics through escapism through work, through responsibilities that you keep, sure, I'll do this, sure, I'll do that, sure. And then you don't have time to like look. That's a form of repression, suppression, denying. Um, so don't get trapped in that loop, okay? This is a time like you want to put some stuff to bed. You want to make sure that you are, as something comes up, that you are being Pluto. You're confronting it. It doesn't mean that you have to do it in an unhealthy way. It means to acknowledge, to face it, to look at it, to feel it. Um, and then, yeah, I will be talking about this new moon in Scorpio coming up. I will post that tomorrow, and I love you all, and I will see you soon.